All right, I'm now joined by a very, very special, longtime recurring guest, friend of the podcast. It is Wil Crowe. Will, I don't. We should just call this Tales from My Notes app because these are all things that I wrote down as I'm watching the game, and I need your insight because I think you have some of the best in the game right now. First, we'll start out with how we're doing. How's the arm doing? How's the recovery?
Yeah, I mean, recovery's good. We're right at the 12-week mark. So we uh we are able to start doing some strengthening stuff with the forearm, which is nice. 12 weeks they really take off, and they don't really want you doing anything for your flexor tendon. So I haven't been able to pick stuff up, and like I'm not able to strengthen it or anything the last 12 weeks. So that started this week, and range of motion is back. I'm feeling really good. It's just a matter of you break it up into like 3 month segments, right? So like I went 3 months of kind of doing nothing, then you go like 3 months of strengthening, then you get like 3 months of playing catch, and then 3 months of bullpens. So that's kind of how I've like based it out. So we're 25% of the way home. So you know we're a quarter of the way there. We're feeling good, and we're just enjoying time with the family. Um, Son started school a couple weeks ago. He loves it. Daughter's turned one a few weeks back as well. So I'm just trying to soak it all in and enjoy this time that I'm usually not getting with the family and at home.
It's the best, man. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, quarter of the way there, and then we're gonna get once we hit halfway, it's just easy money. You're coasting down there from there.
Oh
Um,
yeah, oh yeah.
I love it. All right. So I have a lot of stuff based on pitchers and pitching. We'll start with probably one of the most electric guys going to the game right now. It is Paul Skenes. A big topic of conversation right now is like the shutdown. Are they going to do the Steven Strasburg? The Pirates have said they're not going to do that. They're said they're going to like monitor his workload. What does that usually look like when a workload is being monitored? Is it like being conscientious of taking him out of jams before he has to go like labor through? What does workload monitoring usually look like?
Um, I mean, I think it's just being smart, right? You can get if you can find him an extra day off here, an extra day off there. You do it that way. Um, So it's like an untraditional 5 day rotation or 5 man rotation. Like if you get an off day, you can bump a guy up who's been around a while. Like if Mitch is right behind him right now, you can probably bump Mitch a day. To keep Mitch on a 5 day, give him like a six. I think you get into that 5, 6 inning mark and he's at 85, 90 pitches. You're not going to push him to 10, 105, 110. I think they did that a couple times. So I think it's just being super smart with the way they go about your day to day. He's going to do his work. He's a tireless worker. I've heard nothing but good things from friends, people that I talk to about him. And that's not going to change. He's one of the best in off the field and the way he prepares and stuff. So that stuff they don't really have to worry about, and I don't think you would ever worry about. But when you manage the workload, I think it's like giving him an untraditional, like, hey, you threw Saturday. We've got an extra off day in here. We're going to throw you Saturday again. We're going to try maybe give you like 5 day or 6 days every time, or try and get you like a 6, 5, 6, something like that, kind of with working in off days and stuff. And then like you said, like you're never gonna see him like, all right, you're at 88 pitches. We're sending you back out for the seventh. Like, no, we're gonna like he's 6 innings, couple runs or no runs, 8 punchies, like 2 hits, 1 hit. You're probably not gonna see him stretch it on him, right? Like he's got a no hitter through 8 innings. They might give him the ninth, but unless he's like trying to break records, set milestones, I think they're just gonna take it. Be careful with him, Um, if they see, like a velo dip or something, they'll probably give him a break for a couple days. That's another thing. Like, um, if the arm looks fatigued or something, they might take him out early. They might throw in like a 3 inning start. They that's another way to do it. So there's different ways to go about it, but it's just probably keeping an eye on his stuff, keeping an eye on his metrics, making sure everything is matching up, and basically telling him like, hey, we're gonna do this. Listen to your body, and this is how we're gonna go about it.
I always hear like he's thrown more innings this year than any year in previous whatever. And I hear that so often, not just with him, but with like every young pitcher. Isn't that like that's a thing until it isn't? Like at some point he's going to throw 130 innings or whatever. It's just because he hasn't done it already. Is that necessarily cause for concern for guys?
So yeah, I'm you know, they always say like you don't want to go 20% over what you did the year before, right? And that's kind of like the number, right? If you throw 100 last year, you probably shouldn't throw more than 120. And I can see that, like, I think it might put some more stress on the body and like things on a 5 day, but like that's a workload management, right? You give them an extra day of rest, you're fine. Like, but yeah, like Scooble, right? He's talking the other day about throwing 200 innings, wanting to throw 200 innings this year. And Hinch is like saying, we're going to monitor him because he's more than he's ever been. He's already like 150 some innings, like all this stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, but like you said, that's a thing until it's not, right? Like guys who threw 220 innings, 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, like that didn't happen just because they workload managers or something, right? Like at some point they were a 150 inning pitcher and they're like 3 years into their career and they're like, all right, we're gonna like you're doing you, like you get to where you get to. Um, but I do think on the flip side of that, there's a way to be cautious in your innings 1 year out of college, right? 1 year out of pro or 1 year into pro ball or 2 years into pro ball. Like I don't know how many innings he threw at LSU last year, but I would say he threw probably 125. They won the World Series, so I'm gonna guess he threw 125 to 130. So like if he's probably close to 150 total this year. But another thing you got to remember is like the body doesn't know what it hasn't done. So last year he didn't throw, but maybe one outing in pro ball after the draft in August. So everything that he's throwing now until the end of the year is something he hasn't done before. So that's another thing to like look at. Like if your body hasn't done it, how can it be prepared or how can it know how to do it technically? So getting him, innings in August and in September and preparing him for October are things that you have to do to get to that buildup. So I can see both sides of it, but I do agree with your point. Like if you're never going to let them get there, how can they get there? It's a thing until it's not. So like Mitch Keller, like I don't know how many he threw last year, but I'm going to assume he threw 180 innings last year, 175 innings last year. And the year before, 2022, I don't think he threw 150, right? So like I'm just throwing numbers off the top of my head, but like at what point was I mean you're trying to protect guys to a point of like, hey, we didn't overuse them and get them hurt, but at the same time, when is he considered a big boy in their eyes, basically, and we're gonna let him go? Like maybe it's two years into his career, 3 years into his career. I don't know. It's definitely something that like some people get caught up on, and some people I just don't understand it completely. But who am I? I don't know. I don't manage. I'm not paid to make sure my prospects and my people are supposed to stay healthy. Like they're technically, you got to remember their jobs rely on the health of your players.
Yeah.
So like if your top three players go down because of injuries that you might have been able to prevent, even though I think injuries happen like whether you try to prevent them or not. If they all three go down and you lose 100 games and you get fired, you can go, well, crap, I probably could have taken it slower. So I can see both sides of it.
I just think it's like, in an ideal world, it's nice to have this linear progression of innings where each year it's like a slowly stacking on. But like, I don't know, I feel like that rarely happens. Paul Skenes last year at LSU threw 122. This year he's at 104.
Yeah, it went up four in the big leagues though.
Yeah, in the
So,
big
but
leagues.
he probably threw 50 in the
In
minor leagues.
27.
Only 27 innings.
Yeah, he's got 7 starts, 27 innings. I think weren't they doing 3 inning
Okay.
starts with
Oh
him
yeah. That's right.
in
So yeah, so
Indianapolis? Yeah.
he's already passed it, right? So if you threw 125 last year, 120, 22, you're looking at 150 total, and he's at what 129 now. So to
Yep.
get 21 more innings, that's 3 more starts. Do you want him to pitch in September? You want to pitch him some in September. Like you don't want him to just not pitch in September. Like you want to like he needs to have that experience going into next year. So I could see like a 160 cap, get him 30 more innings. That's 4 to 5 more starts. That gives him one, and he threw yesterday, so that gives him one at the end of the month. That gives him 3 until like September 20th, and then it's like, okay, we can shut him down if we're not in the playoffs, and if we got a chance to be in the playoffs, we can throw him, and then it's not like a big deal. So
It's weird. Do you remember he was throwing that no through 7 and he was at like 99 pitches? Have you ever seen a guy like fight to stay in a game, or have you yourself been starting and the manager comes out and you're like, "No, I'm staying." Has that ever worked?
I mean, it works sometimes. Like there's a viral clip of Mike Messina, right? Like he gets the second out in the bottom of the ninth or the top of the ninth at Yankee Stadium, and Joe Torre gets to the top stair and he's like, "No, sit down," or something. He like tell and like Joe Torre's like, "All right, backs up," and he like strikes the guy out like curveball, and like there's a viral clip, but like there's sometimes that it works. I think there was that one in San Francisco like 2 years ago that was like super awkward where like the pitcher wanted to stay in and Kapler like had to rip the ball out, and it was like this is weird. So like I don't know, like you can there's ways to go about it. Like, hey, the manager comes out there. I think like Mitch sometimes, like Shelty, if he's throwing well and it's in like the seventh or eighth, like he'll go out there and be like, hey, how do you feel? Do you want it? And Mitch will be like, yeah. I'm like, 90% of the time, like it's more of like an affirmation thing. If the manager comes out there and says something to you like that, it's not more of like, I want you to say, yeah, I want to come out. But like for Mitch, like he's never going to want to come out, right? He's going to want to stay out there. It's like, hey, you're at 104 pitches, it's 2 outs in the eighth. Like, you got this guy, or are you beat? It's like, no, I got this guy, and it's like, all right, go get him, or you're coming out. And then it's like, okay, it gives you that adrenaline boost. Like, okay, this is my last guy. Let's put it on the table. Like, here we go. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work often. Um, but like
It's like
you
a Hail
got 12
Mary.
years in the big leagues. Yeah, you got 12 years in the big leagues, and you start yelling at him in the dugout, saying, "Sit down." Like you might get away with it sometimes.
I think Scherzer used to just bark, just like scream at people.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's got a mind of his own. I'm sure he's done some crazy things in there.
Yeah, I think when Davey used to try to go get him, he used to just scream at him and he'd be like, okay, fine, sorry.
Yeah,
But speaking of Scherzer, he's dealt with this arm fatigue this year. And as a non-pitcher, what exactly is arm fatigue other than what it sounds like of your arm just being tired? Like, is there anything more to it than that?
not really. Basically, you try and pick up a ball and not try. You pick up a ball and it feels heavy. You get to your release point and the ball feels like it's coming out slow, and it on the radar gun it kind of says that. It's some people call it arm fatigue, some people call it dead arm. Kind of similar in each of its own, but just a matter where like you feel like you're in a really good spot. You go pick up the baseball and like the ball's just not coming out the way you think it should.
Okay. He's also I look Scherzer's thrown almost 2,900 innings at the big league level. In terms of an arm being able to withstand that, is that feels like a very uncommon thing for him to pitch as long as he has. Like, is it as simple as like he just maybe he's reaching the end of the road here?
Yeah, it could be. It's definitely getting towards the end of his career. I think Max is a tireless worker. I've seen him do some wild workouts, some wild runs, and this was when he was with the Nats and things. But like that's what he's known for. So like if if he feels up to it, right, and he feels good and he's doing his work, like I don't see it. Like he knows when to stop, right? So like it's probably more frustrating for him that this is happening than that a real injury hasn't occurred. Like if an injury occurred and he could like put something on it, like, hey, this is hurt, like this is why I don't feel great, this is what's happening, then like that would make way more sense to him probably than like, oh, the ball's just not coming out right. Like I'm doing everything right. I'm doing my treatment. I'm doing my work. Like I'm long tossing. I've done everything that I'm supposed to do, and it's just not coming out the same way it should because my biceps or my triceps fatigue. Like it's probably really frustrating for him because of how much he works. So it could be because he's getting old, but like Verlander's 42, still chucking at 95. So like I wouldn't say it's completely that, but like you know that's a lot of innings. That's a lot. He's like top 10 in strikeouts, I think. So like there's a lot of miles on that arm. So that's that's uh that's a good question. It could be, but I would doubt it's that because I know who Scherzer is as a person, and if it was that and he felt like he was going out, he would not go out there and jeopardize the team and jeopardize what he's done as a career over his, want to play the game or like not want to give it up. Like I think he is very self aware.
He was also one of those guys too that I don't think he had a normal spring training. Like I think he had a quote about like trying to get himself ramped back up again. And I've seen this a lot recently where guys are coming back off of injuries. They're like, well, I gotta slow down. I gotta shorten the ramp up time because the boys need me. Um, and I think Snell was another guy that didn't have a normal spring. And like the first like 2 months of this year, people were like, whoa, who is this guy? What effect does just like not having a normal ramp up look like on guys?
I mean, a lot of guys in the winter, not a lot of guys live in Florida. Like there's a good amount, but like there's not guys just don't go live in Florida or live in Texas or live in San Diego. So like they're living in cold air. They live at home, right? It's like Tennessee is cold. South Carolina gets cold. North Carolina, like all the places that are around me are cold, right? Like middle of the states are cold. Northern California, it's freezing. So you look at these guys and spring training. I don't remember who I was telling this to the other day, but like Jordan Montgomery, same thing. Didn't have a regular spring training. Snell didn't have a regular spring training. There is value in waking up at 6:30, getting to the park, spending 5 hours at the field, running PFPs or running BP, sitting in the cage, taking ground balls. There's value to having your spikes on. There's value to walking around in your spikes for an hour. Like your body doesn't get used to that stuff. Like when you're in season, you're trained for that, and that's why it's spring training. Spring training isn't for like you to go out there and light up the world, even though everybody wants all the prospects to do great and everybody wants everyone to throw shutout innings. Like people don't like veterans and guys like who are on a team, they're there to get ready for the season. If they go 0 for their first 70 in spring or 0 for their first 50 in spring and then get 3 straight hits and feel good at the plate because of what they've done and how they've got there, they're fine. They go into the season, they hit 300, right? Like spring training is valuable. And people talk about shortened spring training and, making it, shorter and much easier on the players. And it's like, listen, I don't understand. Like hitters, you don't like some hitters need 20 ABs and they're good to go, right? They get they're talented, they're uber efficient, they're unreal, right? Some of them are that way. Some guys need 100 ABs, right, to feel like they're feeling good. Shoot, Adam Eaton, I think he was not a good early season hitter in his career. So he might have needed 200 ABs because every time it got through May, he started hitting 300. And it's like, okay, did he need extra ABs in the season? It's like, so guys are different. But like, I think spring training is to get your feet under you. Like, hey, you're going to go to the park. You're going to put your stuff on. You're going to warm up. You're going to change into cleats. You're going to run from field A to field C. You're going to do PFPs for 5 minutes. You're going to go do in and outs for 10 minutes. You're going to hit BP for an hour. Then you're going to go work out. And like through all that, you're switching shoes, you're changing clothes, like you're getting into the mode of baseball. And I think missing out on that is more important than just like the reps you're taking. Like putting your spikes on for an hour a day for the first week of spring training is miserable. It's not miserable because it's new cleats. It's miserable because your feet hurt because you've been standing on 6 metal prongs for the last hour and a half, like for 7 straight days. Like there's a reason that we go do these things. And like, I think spring training has more value to people than they realize. And the Snell thing, and I think the Jordan Montgomery thing this year, where guys like, who are these pitchers, really shows like, hey, there's a reason spring training is 6 weeks, and guys go and get there and get their work in. It's because they need it. It's not because we're just out there having a good time and like want to be like, no, we need to be there. It helps.
Yeah, it's crazy to look. Yeah, you see guys when they miss the spring training versus when they have it. It's wild to look at it. I had a Snell question because I watch Trevor May does incredible breakdowns. He's been using Baseball Savant to do it, and that's like my favorite website of all time. He's like showing like heat maps on guys. Do pitchers look at heat maps like that? Because he was like, Snell doesn't throw his curveball and slider for strikes, and his fastball is the only strike, so guys are laying off that. Like, do pitchers know that? If Savant and me on my couch can figure that out, do pitchers know that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And if you don't, after 4 outings, you're going to, because your team's going to tell you. So like if you don't know it, someone's going to tell you because you need to know it. So yeah, like all that information is known. you know, I mean, it's all the way down to like the pitch, the swing percentage, like it's everything. Like, hey, you throw your fastball in the zone 10% of the time and you're getting no swings on it. Like, you got to throw it in the zone. Like, they're literally waiting for you to throw slider or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? So, like, they know exactly what you're throwing for strikes. Everyone knows everything about every player. It's, you can't sneak anything by anyone unless you're like, uh, the guy for the Mariners who just breaks out knuckleballs like once every 10 games because he
Like
likes
Kirby.
Tim Wakefield. Yeah, Kirby. Yeah. Like, threw one last year and then he like opens the game up in Wrigley this year with one. It's like, yeah, okay, cool. That's awesome. But like, you're not tricking guys, like they know exactly what you're wanting to throw, when you're wanting to throw it, and how much you throw it in the zone.
Is it hard to course correct then? Are some guys like set in their ways that like these are my pitches, these are what I like to throw, I'm not changing?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Like, you do what you like. Most guys are open to the ability to change, right, and to get better. Everyone's trying to mold and evolve. But at the end of the day, right, like if something doesn't feel right or something doesn't go right, like, what got me here, right? What got me here? This is who I am. This is why they like me. This is why I'm here. Like, let's just refine this a little bit instead of trying to recreate the will.
Here's one because I still love Patrick Corbin. He pitched a gem the last time out. I look at his savant and it's like his sinker's all in the middle and it's getting crushed. But every time he has a good start, it's more slider cutter. That's what's like getting him outs. Is that like game plan specific to pitch to teams certain ways? And why doesn't like why don't they just make those adjustments for every start after that?
Well, yeah, I mean, something clicks, right? Like, for Corbin, like he knows the slider's really good, right? And I don't know, I don't remember if he threw a cutter when I was with him and got to know him, but like, I do know that he knew if he could spot his fastball down and away, or down and in, that the slider played, and like that got him to his slider. So like, at the end of the day, right? Like, if he's not feel like, I don't know how comfortable he is with the cutter, but if he's not comfortable with the cutter and he's not feeling it one day, like, what is he going to go to? He's going to go to the sinker and he's going to go to a slider. So I think, yeah, it's great. Like, you start throwing your cutter and you feel good one day and it feels like it's just clicking, it's clicking, it's clicking, right? Then you're good. But like, dude got paid $180 million off of a sinker and a slider, right? Or 150 million, whatever it may be. Like, if stuff doesn't feel right, he's going to go to that. He's going to be like, hey, I've got many of innings in the big leagues. I've got a World Series championship. I've got all this experience. Like, let's see how this feels. And yeah, it's probably like he's a different pitcher than he was, a few years back. And I think the run might have done. I don't know what happened, or if anything happened, or if it's just it put a lot of stress on the body and the arm. But he's he's an incredible human. I'll put that out there first. Patrick Corbin is an awesome person. He's one of the best dudes I've ever been around. Um, he's a really good pitcher. And you look at his numbers for 4 years, 3 or 4 years in a row, when he was one of the most dominant starters in the big leagues and he won a World Series. You see that you can't consistently be good over a 3 or 4 year period without being a good ball player. And it feels weird that it's went south a little bit, but I know he works the way he works, and I know how hard he works, and I know how much he cares. So, I hate that it happens, that like this happens, but it happens sometimes. And I think, he's not out there just trying to lay it over the middle of the plate. If he is, you know what I mean? He's busting his balls to, be the best player he can be all the time, even after making $150 million.
And
So
he just got his 100th win. So
there you go.
it's a big deal.
Yeah, he
But
threw
yeah,
well, like six innings, like one run or something. It's cool. It's really cool.
like he's done that a couple times this year where like he'll go out and he'll just have like 6 or 7 innings of dominant like 1 run ball, and we're like, okay. But it's cool as a fan to hear that like the reasons why he doesn't just consistently make those adjustments are based off of feel. And like I didn't know that. So like, yeah, you're right. If this the cutter doesn't feel right today, we're gonna, go back to the sinker. Like that's stuff that I just had no idea even existed.
I read something the other day, and it was like, within like 10 throws of trying out a new pitch, whether you're going to like it or not. And I've tried to throw a cutter, I've tried to throw different things, and it couldn't be more true. right? Within 10 throws. And if like, hey, it's good though when you throw it right, but you don't feel good with it, some days it's not going to feel right. It's not going to come out of the hand right. And you're going to cash it in very quickly. Like you're going to be like, hey, I'm not throwing this today. I can't do this. Like, what would you rather? Okay, you tell me. All right. You're a fastball curveball guy, right? And that's your bread and butter. It got you to the big leagues. It's done everything in the world. And someone goes, hey, we really need you to throw this cutter, right? We want you to throw this cutter, but you got 8 years in the show. You know, you've done a really good job in your career, and you're kind of struggling. You go, okay, I'm gonna try and pick up this cutter, and you get into the game like first two games are going okay. Game three goes great. It felt awesome, and then game four, you feel terrible with it, right? Are you gonna get beat on that cutter, or are you gonna go, no, I'm a fastball curveball guy. I'm gonna get beat on what I know, not what I'm trying.
I've talked to guys about this, and it's crazy to think about it. But you're right. Yeah, like Pete Fairbanks is trying to work on a changeup, and he's a fastball slider guy, and he's
Mm-hmm.
like, I throw the changeup 1% of the time because I don't want to get beat with my third best pitch. So
Yep. Yep.
even if like
Yep.
it has good numbers, or like I think it like baffled lefties every time that like the lefties couldn't hit it. But even still, he's like, I may do it in a low leverage spot, but at the end of the day, I'm not, high leverage, bases loaded. You're not seeing the curve or the changeup.
Yeah, and like for Fairbanks, he's throwing 100 with a 90-mile-an-hour slider. Like it's disgusting. And if he has a great outing, he should throw 10 pitches. It's like, when of those 10 pitches is he going to throw the changeup? Why should he? Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, all right, I'm throwing 100 on the black. I'm throwing sliders that you're swinging at, and they're in the dirt. Then I'm blowing 100 by you again. Why should I fumble around and try and fill a changeup in there and potentially blow a save? Why? It doesn't make sense. So like the risk reward, especially with bullpen guys trying to learn stuff, like starters, like you can throw it in there a couple times, right? Like, oh, if I go 6 innings, give up 2 runs, I'm okay. So like there's a lefty coming up first pitch and I want to throw a changeup and I'm not good with it. He hits a homer, it's 1 run. Solo homer don't kill me. But like a bullpen guy's not gonna like you you can't catch a guy dead throwing his third best pitch, like Pete said, trying to get a close or trying to win a game because baseball savant says I have a great changeup, even though I throw it 1% of the time. Like
Yep.
you're never gonna see it. You're never gonna see it.
Yeah, exactly right. Because you'll look at it in baseball savant and be like lefties batting 0.001 or whatever off it. And you're like, and me as the fan, like, hey, what's up with that? We should see more of those. But yeah, you're right. I like as a starter, you're throwing 100 pitches. You could mess around with it, throw a couple in there,
Yeah.
just see what it looks like.
Yeah, if you give up 2 runs, you should win the game. Like that's why you go 6 innings and give up 2 runs. You could mark me down. I would do many of things to go a full season of 6 innings, 2 runs. And I don't, and if I wasn't winning 60% of my games, it wasn't my fault. Let me go ahead and tell you that. Okay. And you could sign me up right now. You cut off my left pinky. You cut off my pinky right now. And I would take a full season in the big leagues of 6 innings, 2 runs every start. Go ahead and do it. I'm telling you right now.
Yep.
And it's like you can get away with the solo homer. You can get away with it. Like, oh, yeah, it didn't work. But like Fairbanks, are they hitting 0.001 off of it or whatever it may be? Because he's throwing it all the time. They're missing it. Or are they hitting it because he's thrown it 6 times?
That's
Right.
it. Yep.
It's like,
That's it.
there you go. So
It's
there's a different sides to it.
starters and relievers. Yeah. And I had a question about as a starter, when you have all that in between time between starts, and just like dealing with the mental side of that. It's actually, I have a sponsor for this question. It's the morning baseball question, promo code BATS10 for 10% off your first order. As a starter, when you have 4 days in between, maybe you don't have a great one. How do you mentally deal with the stresses of, I didn't have my best stuff, but how do you also balance that with trying to look forward to the next one?
I think a big thing as a starter is your process, right? And I think not a lot of people talk about your process as much as your performance, which is an interesting thing. And I think the best people, the best starters, and the best players can get lost in their process instead of getting lost in their performance. If you get lost in your process and you know what you're doing behind the scenes is exactly what you need to do over the course of as a starter, over the course of 35 starts, or as a hitter over the course of 800 ABs, or as a reliever over the course of 60 appearances. If my process matches up, my performance will be where I need it to be. If I get lost in my performance and I'm only thinking about what's happening in my performance, then I will lose my process, and then I will lose what got me to where I'm at. So you don't want to lose your process. You want to get lost in your process, saying you don't want your mental side to be like, oh no, I've failed. In the moment, I'm failing. No, you want your mental side to go, hey, I had a bad outing, but if I do what I have to do on days 1 through 4 over the period of 162, I'm going to be exactly where I need to be.
Yes. It's got to be tough, especially the night after, like going home from the park the night after a bad start. Like, are you able to leave that at the field? Like, how do you kind of process that in the very short term after something like that happens?
So I think family helps, like getting to family and whatnot. I have like when I was in Korea, right? I was by myself. So it made it even worse. Like, not only did I not speak the language, but I was by myself. Like, I would get done with the game and like I could call my wife and stuff over the phone. They were in the middle of their day, but like my kids are doing, my kids are 3 and 1. Like they're doing what they want to do, right? Like they're not sitting and looking at dad on FaceTime while he's laying in his bed, right? They're wanting to run around. So my rule, like I had my second start of the year wasn't great over there, right? I had a bad start, and I made a rule to myself, like no matter how bad it is or how upset I am, like game ends at 11 o'clock or 10:30. Like I have until I go get coffee the next morning, or I wake up, right? When I wake up, to feel bad about myself, right? To like think about my game. But if I take it into the next day, then I ruin my next day. And and if I take what I did the night before into the next day, I might ruin someone else's day, right? If I'm down in 20 the following day about yesterday, then what if a hitter feeds off my energy and it ruins his day? And then it ruins that night for our game that night. So I think you got to have there's time to think about it, right? There's ways to get better from what has happened, but there's also bad ways to think about it. And I think if you give yourself, hey, I got home at 11. I'm going to give myself until 1. I'm going to go to bed, right? And when I wake up, by the time I wake up, this is no longer who I am. This is no longer like, hey, it happened, whatever. I'm going to go get my coffee. I'm going to start my day. I'm going to do my thing, get my breakfast or whatever it may be, walk around. Like, if you leave it there and then you get lost in your process, it doesn't matter. The performance doesn't matter anymore because you're no longer there. You're not allowed to be in that moment anymore.
Yeah. I had a question about, so you've never been traded in season. So, but you've been traded in the off season, so this kind of applies. And maybe you've talked to guys who've dealt with this, but like when guys go to teams in the middle of the season, it's usually to a contending team, and they're usually having a lot of expectations, pressure to perform. My guy Lane Thomas is in Cleveland. He's not doing so great. I think he's 6 for 53. Um, in a very highly contested playoff race. Like, they brought him in there to hit, and he hasn't, quite worked out yet. How much does that gotta just weigh on guys when they're moved for a specific purpose? We want you to hit. That's got to be, or we want your arm in the bullpen or whatever. Like that's got to be so much pressure immediately thrown into something like that.
Oh yeah, I mean it's not easy. It's definitely tough, and the expectations are there. But I think it's a privilege, right? Expectations. If you have expectations, that's a privilege. And you want to do good. You want to do these things. You want to be the player you can be for these guys or for the new guys, especially since they probably don't really know you. So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that go on, and that's why I've always been a proponent of early deadline trades, not late deadline trades. Like I love when a guy gets traded early because then they get comfortable, right? Like they're not thrown into the thick of things when they're fighting for first place or fighting for a wild card. They're thrown in 20 days early, and like you can kind of get comfortable. Like you go 6 for 53 and it's not, August 1 now, right? You can get a little more comfortable than, oh no, it's August 1. Like every AB matters. Like, so yeah, it's tough. You're trying to learn a new city, learn a new team, learn a new, sometimes learn a new philosophy. You're trying to learn all these things, and figure it all out on the go and try and perform at the same time. And it's definitely tough. So, you got to give credit where credit's due. I think, they're in a position when they get traded to be traded because of who they are as a player and as a person. It's going to be fine. They got traded because there's a little bit of reliability there, or they believe so, and they'll come out of it. I saw Lane hit like the double in the ninth inning the other night. I grew up with Lane. We went to high school about 35 minutes from each other. So I know Lane well, and I think Lane's going to be fine. Lane is down to earth, humble, hardworking kid, and hardworking guy now. We were kids growing up, but he's a good dude, and he's going to be okay. His feet are going to get under him, and he's going to steal some bags, play some defense, throw some guys out, hit 270, and who knows, the Guardians might be playing late October for a World Series, and he might be one of the big parts of it.
So cool. I forgot. Yeah, he's a Knoxville guy, isn't he?
Yep.
He was my favorite player in DC. One, because just like gritty home runs and all that stuff, but also like his walkout songs would always just be like Morgan Wallen, and I'm like, this guy rocks.
Yeah.
He's got it.
Yeah.
All right, I had some last kind of like random-ish ones.
Okay.
So I was watching the Dodgers, and every time Shohei hits a home run, it breaks the sound barrier, and it's the loudest thing I've ever heard. Do you remember any guys? It doesn't have to be off of you because that would be terrible. But like, do you remember any of the guys that like the sound of the ball off their bat, it just made you go, "God damn"?
I mean, Acuna, it's, and Acuna hits the ball unbelievably hard, and, he's got a couple homers off me. But I also played with Soto. So that was, in like high A, when you're first getting into pro ball, and Soto hits like 10 homers in 7 games and then gets called up, you're like, holy smokes, this guy's crushing the baseball. So, yeah, there's a few guys, but I would say, like Acuna against me, he smokes some balls, and you're like, golly, dude, there it is again. And then, playing with Soto for a few days and watching him, that's another guy that I would say. I mean, obviously, those are 2 obvious answers. I don't remember who it was, and it's a story of when I was in high A, but we had not Jeremy Hellickson. Jeremy Hellickson was there that day. But we had a bullpen guy who used to be a Nats guy. He was like, his like ethnicity was Indian, and he had an arm tat. He was a bullpen guy, threw really hard in like 2018, but he retired. What was his name? I'll have to look his name up. 27. He was definitely on our. Let me look this up real quick, because this is, I don't remember who hit it off of, but I gotta look this up. 2018 Nationals bullpen. This guy was like a stud for like 2 years, and then left. Like stopped playing baseball completely, but threw like 100. Like Nationals roster.
Was it Coda Glover?
Coda Glover. Oh my gosh, Coda Glover. Dude was awesome, crazy guy. But he comes to high A, and he's pitching first pitch of the inning. We're playing like the Orioles, like high A team, left-handed hitter in not Fredericksburg, Potomac. We were Potomac Nationals in. And out in right field, there was like a parking lot that was like all gravel, but huge, like massive parking lot. First pitch, like 97 up and in, and this lefty, I don't even know if this guy played anywhere above like high A. I swear he hit it over the parking lot. And that is the loudest and farthest ball I've ever seen hit in my entire life. It went so far. And Coda was like, I don't even care. Like, whatever. Like, he was like, I'm rehabbing. I don't care. I was like, dude, you just gave up. It could have been like 515 feet. Like, I'm not even kidding you. It was the farthest home run I think I've ever seen in my life. And it was crushed. And that was probably the loudest. Like, I'll never forget that because of how loud it was, like, coming off the bat.
Good for him for just being like, okay.
Coda Glover, man, what a human. He was awesome. He bought us a great spread that day, too. He was a good guy. Good guy. Good guy.
Had those show checks.
Yeah. They hit awesome. Different.
One of my core just like baseball memories was being in the stands for Jacob Stallings' walk-off grand slam against the Mets. Also on a day that you pitched that day. How crazy was that?
It was awesome. We were up in the tunnel Um, we were like the guys who had already pitched were already upstairs, and we were. I think if Shelty might have got tossed that game,
I think you did.
maybe. I think we were all up in the tunnel, and like me and like two other pitchers and Shelty, and we're all just like he's like home run, and we're all just like hugging in the middle of the locker room, like yeah, like going crazy. So yeah, that was a cool moment, especially when like you watch the replay and Edwin Diaz is pointing to the sky, like oh it's an out, and it's like no, it's a homer, oh no. But yeah, that was a cool moment. We had a fun time in the locker room after that game. That was super cool. That was super cool.
It was like
Old
98,
Stallings.
like way inside. I don't know
Oh
how.
yeah.
Like I didn't know he had that part of his game. Like just to be able to crank those out.
Stallings, man, he's one of a kind. I love me some Jacob Stallings. One of my guys plays Fortnite with me. So we got a
Oh,
little crew of Fortniters. So he's a good dude. Good dude.
oh, that's yeah. Just being in the stands for that was so sick. Um, Last month the Rays intentionally balked Juan Soto off second, put him on third because they were scared of him relaying signs to the batter. How often does that happen? And have you ever thought about trying to do that?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely something. If you're given number signs, it's something. And even at that point, I don't know who's hitting. If it was Judge hitting, it might not even been signs. It might have been location. So you know, you eliminate location. So like this is where the baseball savant thing comes in, right? If it was a location thing and it was Aaron Judge hitting and whoever was pitching, you got to remember some guys only throw one pitch to one side of the plate. So if a guy sits up outside and he knows he's going to throw 75% heater to the outside corner, and that's the only pitch he throws there, then you can eliminate other pitches. So you got to think like, all right, we're not going to let him see where we're setting up because that's what we're throwing. That kind of determines where we're pitching or where we're throwing. So yeah, I mean, I've seen it. Definitely happens. Definitely happens.
Seems so smart. It was just it seemed like they were like so way like three steps ahead of what was going on. I think Pete was pitching on that one too. Um,
Yeah.
all right, last question. Joey Votto just retired, and as a fellow NL
He
Central guy,
bangs.
he
He
still
bangs.
bangs. What
Still
what stands out
bangs.
to you about Joey Votto?
I just think what he did for the game, obviously an incredible player. I think it was until his last year with the Reds that he had never popped out in foul territory in his whole career. He'd only done it twice in his whole career. It's like he's a stud, man. He's a good dude. Some of his interviews were awesome. You know, people loved him. Definitely different cat, but he's a good player. He played the game the right way. Sometimes he showed some of his cockiness, but he earned the right to be cocky. You know, when you hit the way you do and do the things you do in a city like he did in Cincinnati, and you do the things you do, you're allowed to do those things. I mean, he's just an all time great, and it stinks that he kind of got injured and couldn't get back with another team this year. But it would have been weird seeing him play for anyone else in the Reds. So what a career, what a human. I saw a stat he could go like 0 for his next like 300 or something and still have a higher on base percentage than Tony Gwynn. So
Yep.
it's like he's one of a kind, and you compare his numbers to Todd Helton, and he's a surefire Hall of Famer. So he he had a wonderful career, and I don't know what he's going to do in his next life or next occupation, but I'm sure he'll succeed very well with it. So
I didn't grow up a Reds fan. I just like I got so sad when I heard he was retiring just because everything he's meant to the game of baseball.
yeah.
How much success did you have like against him?
Oh gosh, probably not much. Um, I I want to say he hit a homer off me. Um, Change up down and away. I think it was a homer. It was Oppo. I know I walked him a couple times, but I don't know. He's probably, if I had to guess, he's probably like I don't know, 3 for 10 with a homer and maybe a double and maybe a punchy or no, he's probably like 3 for 7 with a couple walks. I have no idea. I don't know. I can look it up, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
This
Definitely.
is you struck him out and he has a homer. That's all it says for this though.
Oh, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. I could here. Let's see. Joey Votto versus Wil Crowe. I know he's got a homer up. Let's see. Yeah, 3-run homer. Lines into a double play, so he's definitely got more
Yeah, I'm
than
sure.
one bat off me. Let's see. Let's see. I should probably go Wil Crowe. Let's see. Compare player head to head. Where is this? Head to head stats. Here we go. Wil Crowe. Stat hit. Come on. It's loading. Slowly but surely. Where is that? No, I want Wil Crowe
Five
versus Wil Crowe.
five at bats, one hit, one strikeout.
Where's this at? Now I can't see it. Let's
Wait.
go back.
Oh, a homer, a double, a strikeout.
2 for 3. Couple walks. Probably right.
Yeah. Yeah, you never walked him.
I didn't walk him. All right, here we go. I got it. Here you go. Wil Crowe, click. Choices Wil Crowe. Get results. If this doesn't pull up, I'll have to figure it out and I'll text it to you. Here you go. No, he is 1 for 5.
Yeah. Okay.
1 for 5 with a homer and a strikeout. No walks. Got 1,000 OPS on me though.
The
So
walks is good though.
some would say he's a Mendoza line hitter, but he's a great slugger. So,
I mean,
hey, and if you watch that video, man, gosh, if you watch the video of him hitting that homer, pretty sure it was down and away changeup. No, it wasn't. It was an up and in fastball. I remember. And it was perfectly executed, and I don't understand how he hit it. I looked back at Stallings and was like, what? And he was like, but he definitely hit a homer. 2-2, up and in, fastball. I'm watching it right now. Oh, yeah. On the line, right below the corner, and bomb. No, first row. Dang it. So close.
I mean, but can you even do anything about that though? Where you said it's perfectly executed. It's like you did all you could do.
It went into the first row of Great American Small Park. So it's all right. But yeah, and that's one of those things. You tip your cap, man. He's one of a kind. So
Could be a
it
Hall of
is what it
Famer one
is.
day.
Yep, Hall of Famer. Hey, you hit a home run off me. I'm in someone's in a Hall of Famer's book. So that's cool.
Oh man, dude, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for your time. It's great
Yeah, thank
catching
you,
up with
man.
you again. I know it's been a little bit, but appreciate it as always. And
Yep.
best of luck everything with the rehab. The second
All right,
of
man.
the 3 months.
All right, brother. I appreciate it.